And we are standing today. I have a standing desk. I may as well start using it because, frankly, after sitting for 8 to 10 hours at work, it's something I need to do. And who thought playing Football Manager would be a way to vent your work frustrations? But it's coming in handy lately. It's the end of the year. I don't know what's got into the water. Cats and dogs living together, mass hysteria sort of thing. But it happens every year. I guess I shouldn't be surprised. What you're seeing now is not a lot going on after we beat Zalagarsaji. I'm totally mispronouncing that. I apologize. We beat Winterthur 3-0 thanks to goals by Fry, Gatto, and Duboisen. We absolutely thumped Thorshaven the first time around. Gatto had 4 goals. Demir chipped in a goal in the 76th minute. And then we lost against Young Boys. I'm still kind of hacked off at this game. We just could not put anything together. It was absolutely. It doesn't help that they had Lusberger go off in the 52nd minute. We had Van Bremen go off in the 3rd minute, and I can't remember what happened to him exactly. We'll take a look at it here. Hamstring strain. It was one of those, he got injured. The coaches said, hey, you should probably take him off. I took him off, and it's like, oh, it's a pinky sprain or something like that. I brought on Barisic. I had to take him off because that 6.9 is just absolutely a joke. He had, I don't know if it was just me when I was watching the game, but dude had more mistakes than I care to remember. At the same time, he came on in the 3rd minute, and he went off in the 73rd minute. It was just, you know how when all you see are the highlights of your players screwing up? That was pretty much this game in a nutshell. I don't even know how we had an XG of 1.12, seeing how the penalty kick came on a free. So we're going to play the second half of the Thorshaven game today, but before we do that, we're going to go into scouting and how I set it up. Now, I've cribbed my scouting methods and knowledge from a lot of people the past 4 or 5 years. Scouting has changed the past 3 years or so. There is no right way to do scouting. Whatever works best for you, whatever you feel comfortable doing. If you want the GM and the chief scout to do it instead of the assignments and stuff like that, that's perfectly fine. For a save like this, where we're trying to get pretty granular with finding people and finding youngsters and so on and so forth, we're going to go a bit more in depth. Speaking about finding youngsters and whatnot, a lot of the Brazilian leagues are playing now. So as a result, we've got quite a few guys that we've had come through. Once they've been scouted, I've gone and added the 3 asterisks to them. That way when they show up, I know they've been scouted. I haven't set up a scouting assignment yet, but I do have a scout in Brazil, as it were. Out there. I probably have the northern guys in the wrong place. Actually, some of these are my Brazilian guys. Rayan and Lucas Loss are probably the 2 biggest ones. If I can get them in this January transfer window, I will be all over that. Rayan's 17 years old. He's already got really good physicals. His mentals are pretty solid for a person his age, and they can only go up. His technicals are already solid. I mean, this guy would be playing at a lot of lower leagues. He'd be starting on a lot of lower leagues. That's the good news. The bad news is I appear to have a lot of depth at the winger position where he plays, but one of those is Demir on loan. I would expect Guado, where did I get that from? That's what I get for watching Total Recall a couple nights ago. Anyhow, Juan is probably going to leave, if only because of his performances. He's going to have teams after him. Anton Cade, I would like to give an opportunity because he is also a young winger. What would probably happen is I would do my best to bring Rayan in and turn the job over to Cade, and then when Rayan's 19 years old, Cade will probably be ready to move on, or Rayan will probably be ready to move on. The other one is Lucas Loss. 16-year-old defensive center back, and he has already got these sorts of numbers. These are good numbers to grow on. This is a very solid foundation to grow on, especially if we can get him in and get him trained. I mean, 14 positioning already, 12 determination is very nice, 12 first touch for a defensive center back. They say he's a wide center back, and that makes total sense. 13 heading. His marking and tackling are already pretty decent. His passing is nice. His technique is nice, and it can only go up. I mean, this kid's got a ton of potential. And then a couple of others that we still need to scout. But what I want to do is talk about my philosophy in doing that, especially when it comes to youth saves. So when you're creating a recruitment focus, doesn't matter what formation you're running, you always want to scout for any player. And I don't like to scout regions. I also don't like to scout individual countries. I scout what I call mini regions. And those are countries that are next to or neighboring or close enough that you can assign one scout and they will have no problems getting back and forth between them. A good example of this would be Turkey, Greece, Bulgaria, Spain, Portugal. You could add France to that. The Netherlands, Belgium, Denmark, the Scandinavian countries all at once. Your former Yugoslavian countries all at once. I say former Yugoslavian because there's like 7 of them, and when I nickname my scouts, which I'll show you here in a minute, it's just easier to type that in to get that taken care of. Asia, it would be Japan and South Korea. It would be Thailand and Indonesia. In Africa, it will be your West African countries that you want to scout. In East Africa, it would be your East African countries you want to scout. Which countries might those be? I have a way to figure that out. It's highly scientific, based on bad math and some supposition, and it's on a spreadsheet, so it looks kind of cool, and we'll get to that here in a minute. The first thing you want to do when you finally get your scouting department filled up and you bring everybody in is you want to go through and you want to nickname all your scouts. And by nicknaming all your scouts, I mean you take the scout, you look at his abilities, you put it in his nickname. His ability, his current ability scouting, his potential ability scouting. If you want to add adaptability, you can, but my understanding is, at least on the skins, they've added adaptability now. If they haven't, you can always add that in. He is good for Germany, Poland, and Austria. He is also my chief scout. Then you have a guy like this person right here, Mr. Seckinger. He's got good adaptability, good judging ability, great judging potential. He's got a very interesting knowledge base. England, France, Belgium, Spain, Cote d'Ivoire, and Senegal. He is going to be my West African scout. So we're going to set up West Africa. So we're going to set up a recruitment focus. Delete this one here real quick. Create it. We're going to go any positions, any scout, and we're going to call this 16-year-old West Africa. Transfer and loan is fine. Take this down to 5 stars there. I always leave this at 2.5. We want to start this at 16, and we're going to end this one at 16. Areas, choose an area, region, Africa, Western Africa. We don't want that. That region's too big, and frankly, there's countries there you don't want to scout. And what do I mean by that? I will show you. This is a simple spreadsheet. It started out as a simple spreadsheet. The full version has almost 125 tabs, but I'm breaking it up for the purposes of some YouTube shorts and the recordings here. Africa, Asia, Europe, North America, Oceania, South America, the regions, the FM24 scouting regions within those areas. Here's the tier list I'm talking about. And this is fairly straightforward. All it is the country's youth rating times the game importance plus the reputation. Game importance is weighted. 1 is 1. 2 is 0.85, 3 is 0.66, 4 is 0.50. Can't remember what I did exactly because I did this in the summer, and a lot of this was based off the FM23 database. So these numbers have changed for a few countries. I suspect a lot of them haven't changed significantly to the point where they would be moving. Now, you have your S tier countries, of course. Brazil, Germany, France, Spain, Argentina, Italy, Portugal, Holland, England, Belgium, Mexico, Colombia. If you have extra scouts, or if you're trying to get ahead of the curve, send a scout to Brazil, and also have them scout Argentina. I tend to go not off the beaten path, but the adjacent path more often than not. In this save, because of what we're doing, I am going to have a scout in Brazil, Argentina, and hitting Uruguay. As you can see here, Uruguay is actually really good. Your A-tier countries, they're always good to scout in. You always, if you have the ability to send a scout to a mini region. So as an example, as I group these together, Japan and South Korea and East Asia are a great mini region. Iran and Egypt, and I would probably add Israel in there, are a good mini region. You can add Algeria too. It's 6 1, half dozen the other on there. Russia and Ukraine, you want to add to a region. Uruguay, Paraguay, Peru, add to a mini region. Throw in Ecuador if you want to, if you don't think you're going to be spreading your scout too thin. Croatia, I would just lump in with all the other former Yugoslavian countries. It's easier that way. The only reason a lot of those clubs aren't in the A tier is simply because their youth rating is a little bit on the lower side. Ghana, Ivory Coast, Nigeria. Those are the West African countries you want to scout because they have the best opportunities to generate very good youth players. And if you want to get really, really granular, you can even go to specific teams and scout for them. That's coming down the road. That's a different spreadsheet at the moment. So I'm finishing that up not exactly. It'll probably be another week or two before that's done. Your B tier countries also generate some pretty good new gens, not as many as your A tier or S tier countries, but it's always worth sending a scout to some of these mini regions. Poland, Switzerland, Austria. I always group Scandinavia together in one mini region. So it's going to be Norway, Sweden, Finland, Denmark. And then if I have Iceland, well, I have Iceland included in this game. I would throw Iceland in as well, if only because we know they have the propensity to generate some very good players. And that's the thing. You don't have to be looking for wonder kids all the time. It's great if you find one, but if you find a very good player who, maybe 3.5, 4-star potential, and you can develop them to that, you can still turn them around for some very good money. Going on a wonder kid chase can be fun. Going on a wonder kid only chase will leave you exasperated. C-tier countries are countries that, if you have the opportunity, you want to throw a scout to them every once in a while. I need to widen this out real quick. So countries like Costa Rica, for reputation and game importance, they're good, but their youth rating is low enough it drags them down to the C tier. Same thing with North Macedonia. Same thing with Finland. A lot of this is based on youth reputation and game importance, because if you have a good youth reputation and good game importance, it means you're going to throw a lot of money at developing youth. If you have a good youth reputation, but the game isn't all that important to you, Chile is the best example of this, it's going to drag your overall ranking down. Yeah, their reputation is 7,100, their youth rating is 93, their reputation is 142, but their game importance is 4. It's one of the lowest in the game. That just means they're not investing in it, so they're not turning out as many good young Chilean players as there could be. The upside to that is they turn out some very good to decent players, and every once in a while a wonder kid or 3. So it's worth, once your scouting department is big enough, it's worth taking a look at. But this is also where screen flow comes into play. You're never ever going to have a scouting department big enough to cover everything. But what you can do is use screen flow. Hey, here's a Chilean youngster who's scoring at will, and he's already on the Chilean national team. Why not scout him now? One of the things I like to do, especially when my scouting department gets big enough, is you always have 1 or 2 scouts who don't have anything assigned to them. Back in the day, I used to nickname them air miles, because all they did would be they would travel from country to country to country and just scout whoever was there. They always had high adaptability. They always had high potential scouting. And they would, I'd see somebody come across on the screen flow. Sometimes it would be someone who was going to top out at 3 stars. Every once in a while, you'd find a 4-star guy. Every once in a great while, you'd find a 5-star kid that you would just absolutely fall in love with and be able to sign him on. The kid I talked about earlier in the save, Helio from Brazil, was one of those kids. I didn't have a big scouting department at Kaiserslautern. I had the screen flow on. He popped up. He was on the British national teams. No, it was the regional playoffs, the U20 play. It was the U20 playoffs, and he popped up on there, and he was just a Brazilian Erling Haaland. It was just absolutely insane. So I hate the word synergy, but that's exactly what it is. It's how you're using everything together. This list is entirely subjective in that I use my own modifiers for the game importance. If you didn't modify the game importance, then Chile would be an S tier country, and we know that's just not the case. So game importance was the deciding factor. Those sharp-eyed amongst you will notice that this reputation is essentially this reputation times 50. I think SI uses this behind the scenes in the editor so they can get a bit more granular with the numbers. The reputation would go up to 5275. We can't exactly put that as 105.5 in the game. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. I don't know. I haven't really delved that much into the editor this year. So your D-tier clubs, yeah, every once in a while you'll find a good player from them. You got that striker from North Korea who played in Italy for a couple years before disappearing. Every once in a while Congo turns out a good player. Faroe Islands, every once in a while, will turn out a really good player. I had a defensive center back a couple years ago who was like a 180 PA kid until he broke his hip. Zimbabwe also has the opportunity. So in this case, with your D-tier countries, you're looking for clubs with higher youth ratings more than anything else. So if we sort by that, you want to focus on India, Kuwait, Vietnam's turned out a couple of good ones every once in a while. Belarus, Kosovo's part of the former Yugoslavian mini region that I always put together. El Salvador every once in a while. Congo every once in a while. These countries are the ones that you're going to pay a little bit more attention to in the screen flow results, just to see, who's the kid that's got 6 goals in 3 games from Panama. Let's check them out. Panama is another one who suffers from where the game importance just isn't that high. Same thing with Oman. Your F tier countries, for the most part, you can avoid. Sierra Leone, Lord love them, they try. Their youth rating is just so low, and their game reputation is just so low, but they spend a lot of time and money trying to develop youth. Essentially, what this is going to turn into is you have an Africa. The teams that have hyperlinks in them are going to go to a tab that takes you to that country. And that tab is going to display the clubs in that country that meet what I would consider to be the minimum standards for clubs you would want to look at specifically. Some countries, it's just 1 or 2 clubs. Other countries, it's 5 or 6 clubs. Some countries like Spain, it's 77 clubs. Let me pull up that spreadsheet. It's a work in action. We'll get to it here in a little bit. So as you can see, there are definitely a lot more tabs at the bottom. So we are going to go to, say, Ivory Coast, good country to scout in West Africa. Some of this is FM22 numbers, in particular the team CAs and PAs. So a lot of this is FM23 numbers. These are the clubs in Ivory Coast that, if you don't have time to scout the region or country as a whole, you just want to go and look at a particular club, these are the clubs you want to look at. And the reason you want to look at them is their training facilities, their youth facilities, their youth academy, and their youth recruiting average. I weighted them on a scale of 1 to 20 based on the categories that were available. And SI being SI, of course, has different numbers and different names for different categories. Excellent is 15 to 18 in one category and 16 to 18 in another category. And I don't know why they did that, but that's how they did that. What I essentially did was I took the averages of those. If excellent was 15 to 18, I added 15, 16, 17, 18, divided it by 4. That was the average score. You take the average score and you divide it by the number of columns. That gave you a base weighted score. And I'll show you that here on this other spreadsheet that is also something I'm working on as well. I got a lot of stuff I'm working on. I just need to finish it. So we're looking at Ivory Coast. These are the 3 clubs you would want to look at if you were going to scout Ivory Coast. Why? Because their training facilities, their youth academy, and their youth recruitment put them above average when compared to all the other clubs that compete in Ivory Coast. Chances are, if there is a good player in Ivory Coast, they are going to come from here. Now, the teams with the low CA and PA, I don't worry about those too much. Those are academy teams. Those are clubs specifically for training up youngsters. They don't compete competitively, or if they do, they compete at a lower level of football. In this case, the Ivorian Academy competes in the Ivorian D3 League, and the CFDFA is actually in the Ivorian Academies League. Now, the fallout from this is because of the database, some of the information is from FM22, some of the information is from FM23, some of the teams may have moved up or down since then. So this is the master spreadsheet. This took a lot of time and effort and a decent amount of Python code that I just really had to fight through to get done. This, once I take all of these off, is the FM23 database of every team in FM23. There are some duplicates in here, but at the end of the day, there's about 53,000 of them. Now, if we go up here, you can see this is how I was rating everything. So as an example, Man City, best, excellent, exceptional. So that's 2020, 18, 20. You add all of that up, you divide it by 4, that gives them a combined 19.5. If I filter this, and we go, well, you know what, it's gonna be easier just to do this. We go here, we go West Africa, and then we go here to Ivory Coast. These are all the teams that participate in the Ivory Coast. And it is painfully obvious to me that I did not cut and paste properly because I missed ASEC Mimosas. What should have happened is any club that had a combined score of 10 or better, and I will admit there are some countries where I fudged it to like a 9.875 or 9.750, should be added to that other spreadsheet. I totally screwed up Ivory Coast. But as you can see, ASEC Mimosas, Chicano, Ivory Cathary, and then these here are a bunch of academies, because as you see, as I zoom in a little bit and make this a little bit easier to read, their CAs and PAs are 0. But if this is a spreadsheet that will eventually, I will release. I need to clean it up a little bit and fill in a couple of things, but these numbers here are totally subjective. They're mine. When you do get your hands on this and you want to mess around with it, be my guest. You want to take an issue with my methodology? That's great too. Show me what I did wrong. Show me what I could do better. You know, I'm totally on board with that. So as an example, you know, if you want to look for all the teams that have superb training facilities, you can do that. Once you have superb training facilities, if you want to look for all the teams that have superb youth facilities, you can do that. Then I can't remember the ranking on this. I want to say it's exceptional is the highest one, and that's Barcelona. But then if you go back and you go down here to adequate, you got a few other options. And then New York, Brighton City, Hoffenheim, Toronto, Juve, Lazio, Sporting KC. I never would have thought Sporting KC would have been on here, but a lot of the MLS teams are, simply because they are academy squads. So, and they're weighted accordingly. And then the stuff on the side here, you don't have to worry about. That's stuff I've been using to mess around with. And that is what I am using to help me scout. Those are going to be available here in the next couple weeks, probably through some YouTube shorts I'm doing. Keep an eye out for those. Getting back to the scouting, we are going to go to the nations. We're going to go to Africa, and we were going to do Ivory Coast, and I'm totally blanking on the other ones. And of course, I just shut down that spreadsheet. Back in a sec. We're going to go Ivory Coast, we're going to go Senegal, and we're going to go to Nigeria? Yeah, Nigeria. So, and this is where having a scout with good adaptability is, if you have a scout with low adaptability, you want to keep him in the region he's best at. Your scouts with good adaptability, even great adaptability, those are the ones you're going to send out in Rome. And, you know, you're going to kind of assign them to a region that they already know. In this case, he already knows Senegal and Ivory Coast. Because he has high adaptability, he will learn Niger quicker. I don't want Niger, I want Nigeria. The geographer in me just died a little bit. 16, 18, ongoing, assigned scout. Click this. Now, adaptability is included in this. I have not looked at this in the base skin. If it's included, that is absolutely fabulous. But now we're looking at our scouts. Well, I'm looking for the guy who knows West Africa. Now, I can hover over them, and sometimes it'll pop up. That's his attributes. But if I hover over his name like this, it'll give me his full name. So like this guy is my South American scout. This guy is my Swiss scout. If I scroll down, second year, Ivory Coast, Senegal, and he has a 13 adaptability. That is really good. We click him to assign him, confirm, and then we unclick this. You do not want him to look at players who have already been looked at. Now what I do is I set this up for every age group up to 19 for the same scout. I haven't noticed any deficiencies with this method. Is it possible I'm missing some players? Yes. When I get to a point where I have another scout to send to West Africa, and you probably need about 12 to 14 scouts to be able to do that, then I would redo this assignment and split the workload. This is how I set up my scouting. It's especially in a youth save. 16, one for 16-year-olds, one for 17-year-olds, one for 18-year-olds, one for 19-year-olds. You can do an overall one for 16 and 19. Sometimes you'll catch a few that fall through the cracks, as it were. I like to say 6-5 and pick them. No matter which way you go on that, I don't think you're going to be wrong. We're going to confirm that. That's going to be set up. I'll set the other ones up after the game because Lord knows I've been talking for a while about scouting, and we need to get to that. Camera moving a little bit because, of course, I'm on the standing desk. That's okay. It happens. But I'm liking the standing up. If I can do this a little bit more often, I will. So what are we looking at today? Everybody is, well, we bring on Cage for Gauto. Malone is, nope, I'm going to switch K to out. We're going to bring Demir on. Combs is not doing okay, so we can bring on Barisic, or do I have a youth player I can? Well, let me look at Stolenage here. Yeah, that's a lip curl. You know what? We'll put him on. I hope I don't jinx myself by saying this, because we're playing against the Faroe Islands. I don't know that that's really going to hurt us. Move Hugo up. Now we're going to leave Hugo off. And worst comes to worst, I can always pull him off and bring on Barisic. And what I need to do is get another defensive center back up. Atkinson's 16, though. No, this is what we're going to do. We're going to have hits and goal. We're going to have Schmid, Van Bremen, Selmanage, and Lang as the defensive back four. Viegas, the ball-winning midfielder behind Fry and Zaka. Caden Demir is the wingers, and Jovanovic up top as the strikers. OBS changed. Of course they did. You have to add the game audio as its own track. So that should be on. I have it turned down a little bit. Let me actually put my headphones in. That's a little bit on the low side. Oh, sure, now it kicks up. Okay, that's actually not that bad. And again, it's like foggy. Zaka on the corner kick sends it in. Knocked away. Van Bremen tries heading it back in, but the Thorshaven keeper picks it up. Boots down the field. Lang heads it down to Demir. He sends it to Fry. Fry to Ivanovic. He's got help. Instead, he's going to take the shot and score. I really thought he was going to dump it off to one of the wingers who was cutting it inside there, but he decided not to. Let's see this from the side here. Lang gets it down to Demir. Nice pass to Fry. One touch up to Ivanovic. I really thought he was going to give it off to Demir. And he had three other guys helping over there. We had a 3-on-2 over there. Instead, he said, no, I'm just going to take this on my own. I'm okay with that. Demir sends it in again. Cade's going to run down to Karam. He dinks it in. Lang is there. We got 2 goals in 3 minutes. I'm just going to drop the mentality down to balance. We don't want to... On one hand, you kind of sort of do want to keep the proverbial boot on the proverbial neck and just score high, but in this situation, it's really not worth it. I mean, at the end of the day, you don't want to be dicks about it. Nielsen driving forward. Loses the ball, bad pass. Well, this wasn't a bad pass, the other guy just missed it. Selmanaj. What he's doing all the way up there with his poor dribbling skills, but Fry ends up with the ball. Cade tries getting inside, but he misses. Demir didn't have anybody to send it to. Nelson out to the wings to Agnarsson. Nice move. Almost loses it. Turns around, says, I'm going to try and score all by myself, and he can't. Hits a very nice save. Is it raining? Is that why it's looking like that? I got to wait for the weather report to come back up. I think it said showers. Schmidt, back to Lang. Selmanaj. All the way back to hits. Van Bremen. Schmidt. Cade. Cade. Nice tackle. Agnarsson. Back to Johnson. Johnson to Agnarsson. Johnson. Geisling. Oh, Demir steals the ball. He's got some help. Cade. Inside, outside. Centers it. Fry. Oh, Lamhog made a poor save. He got a hand on the ball, but he directed it in his net. Nice move by Cade, though. Oh, Lamhog should have had that. He should have had, yeah, showering. Okay, so maybe it's looking like that because of the rain. I can buy that. Selmanaj, Demir. Back to Selmanaj. Lang. Van Bremen. Fry. Center of the field. Back to Van Bremen. Schmidt. Out to Cade. Thorshaven's playing well off our guys. Daka. Out to Demir. Left all alone. Oh, he skies it. That Lamhog got a hand on it. Corner kick. Demir. Lost in the crowd. And Cade can't get it. Thorshaven kicks it away. Fry. Oh, tries passing up to space, but Giesing gets there first. Agnarsson. He's beating his guys. And he scores. That was nice. He's a little speedster, isn't he? We should probably take a look at him just to see how fast he is. But he seemed to do a decent job of running away from the defenders there. Ivanovic, Van Bremen. Schmidt. Fry, back to Van Bremen. Lang. Zaka, out to Demir. Passes inside, Jovanovic gets by his guy. One-on-one. Off the post. Johnson to Klesson. Just bombs it forward to the highlight lines. Van Bremen to Viega. That's another highlight almost right away. Jeez. This turned out to be a pretty good game, actually. Probably loses the ball. Johnson. Klessing. To Agnarsson. Beats this guy again, and he scores again. Hannes Agnarsson. Jeez. It's a good thing we put 5 on him in the first game. He just... That's my youngster right there. Well, let's pause this real quick because I want to take a look at 17 acceleration, 18 pace. That is how you do it in the really low leagues. We've got 9 and 7. They've got 5 and 4. Shots on target. Demir. Nifty little move. Loses the ball. That's not a nifty move. Solheim evades the tackle. Not a stat. Agnerson. I swear to God, if he scored again, I was going to take off my 2 center backs and just whatever happens, happens. We're ahead 3-2. We're ahead on aggregate 8-2. It's a good thing, like I said, it's a good thing we jumped out to that high lead. Zaka to Demir. Demir loses the ball again. Ortega. Eggleston to Nielsen. Ortega up into space. Eriksson gets by the defender. Jamie. Who was that? Van Bremen. Holy cow. We're seeing he's on a 6'9" and Schmid's on a 6'4". Okay, we'll bring Rueg on for Schmid. You know, we'll bring Barisic on for Van Bremen. We've Selmanaj on. He's on a 6'8". He seems to be doing okay. Bring Gauto on for Demir. It seems almost every time we've seen Youssef, he's either made a really nice pass or he's dribbled the ball so far in front of him, a Faroe Islands player runs up and takes it from him. And that's exactly what happened here. Just Van Bremen he didn't turn around. It's like he got in the guy's way, but it wasn't enough. Lang. Selmanaj. Over to Barisic. Up to Ruig. Fry. Ivanovic. One touches it to Cade. Cade one-on-one essentially takes the shot. That's right, the keeper. Nice stop there for that keeper. Oh, nice score off the head of Agnerson again. Not only is he speedy, he's got jumping ability too. What on earth is up with that? Oh. You know what? Maybe it's worth. Is it worth taking a look at him? I mean, he's got a 9.8 on us today. Thank God for the first game. We beat them 5-0 the first game. That's the only reason we won this time around. What were the rest of his tributes? Decent concentration, decent aggression, determination, flair is nice, work rate's nice, 13 dribbling. The rest of his technicals are really kind of off. And everything else is average. Yeah, he's not worth it, but holy cow, he's a great player for that level of football. He's probably dominant. Well, he's not dominating. He's only got 3 goals in the league. Dude scored 3 goals against us. That's more than enough. The evening coffee clutch has started, as you can hear George in the background. We are playing Rapid Vienna next. When are we playing them? Probably next week. Yeah, like next. So we have our Schweitzer Cup first round match against a regional team that if we don't beat them, I will end the save right here and now. I'll be 100% honest with you. We got away at Rapid Vienna and then home with Servette in between. So we'll come back for Rapid Vienna. We'll take a look at how I've set up the scouting for everybody. Hopefully we'll be able to get an advantage against them. We'll take a look at some of the results. We'll start seeing if there are players who would be willing to come to us in January. The other thing I got to worry about is players who are going to be leaving. It's going to be interesting. I'm really looking forward to it. The save's been pretty fun so far. A lot of behind-the-scenes work going into it that just a lot of people don't see. That's 90% of an FM save that you do on YouTube, it seems sometimes. So, all that said, if you did like what you've seen and heard, please leave a like. Subscribe to the channel for more content. Questions, criticism, comments, leave those down below. I will answer those as fast as I can. My name's FM Jellicoe. I thank you very much for watching.